Hello and welcome to Wyrd Wessex. My name's Andy.
And I'm Craig.
Oh, and we have an Eileen. Say hello, Eileen.
Hello.
Yes, we're covering werewolves today. Again. Why do you ask? Well, because basically we went on for a long, long time last episode, and we just thought, you know what? It was gone midnight, and we hadn't covered half the things we wanted to, and we had a lot of fun recording it. And so here is a unplanned part two to our werewolves episode. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us again, Eileen.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
I guess it's probably worth saying that it's not essential that you watch the first part because they're not kind of sequential, but yeah.
You absolutely should.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there is so much to discover with these, sort of these wonderful werewolf stories from all across the globe, but especially sort of the ones we've been focusing on. And, quite often we think of how werewolves come about, sort of, is it that bite that you get? Is it something happening a bit strange under a full moon? What do you reckon, Craig? How do werewolves come about?
Well, I have kind of a thing of how you can become a werewolf. I've had to shorten it a bit, so don't follow this word for word because it may not work. If you're interested in the full account, it's from Elliot O'Donnell's book Werewolves, which we used last time for a few of the stories as well. But yeah, this is an incredibly shortened version, but if you like, I'll tell you how you do it.
Oh, yeah. Don't try this at home, or do. But if so, once the full moon's gone, you've got to come on the show and tell us all about it.
So it says, according to some of the more infamous accounts from the past, becoming a werewolf is no accident. It's a deliberate act, a ritual that calls upon forces that many would prefer to leave well alone. If you're serious about taking this path, the following steps must be followed precisely. As I said, I've shortened this, so...
If you follow the shortened version, will you become like a werepug or a
puppy?
Spaniel, a werepuppy? A were heckin' cute pupper? I don't know, like some mongrel sort of dog.
Okay, well, Andy, if you try it whilst
the were man, just another man.
That's it. Yeah.
If Andy follows along, we'll find out at the end. Like a were rabbit or something.
That can be like a future Halloween special. That the were rabbit, that's been done.
It has been. What you need to do, Andy, is disappear from the camera as he's reading it out, and then pick up any small object.
That's it. Oh, I should have recorded this around Patrick's place and borrowed Luther, his dog, and just
and put the earphones on them. Yeah.
Okay, so
it's a were Labrador. Sorry.
Isn't it a poodle, I think?
Yeah, it's a poodle, yeah.
So poodle doesn't sound right.
Hypoallergenic, that's good.
Band name? This, by the way, is possibly one of the reasons why it took so long and took us past 12 o'clock to record. But
yes.
All good fun. Anyway, Craig, go on. Tell us how to become one of these beasts of the night.
Okay, so you can't actually do it today because first you need a night when the moon is new and at its most powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Then you find a place far from the presence of other people. I like to do that anyway.
Recommended.
He's in his little shack in the middle of nowhere in the woods.
It suggests a desolate mountain peak or the deepest part of a wood or a barren field. And then at midnight on perfectly flat ground, you must mark out 2 circles in the dirt. The outer circle should have a radius of at least 7 feet and the inner circle a radius of 3 feet. Within the inner circle, you need to kindle a fire, and over it on a strong iron tripod, place an iron vessel filled with water. As soon as the water begins to boil, throw in handfuls of any 3 of the following ingredients. Asafoetida, parsley, opium, hemlock, henbane, saffron, aloe, poppy seeds, or nightshade. As you do this, you must recite this incantation. Spirits from the deep who never sleep, be kind to me. Spirits from the grave without a soul to save, be kind to me. Spirits of the trees that grow upon the leas, be kind to me. Spirits of the air, foul and black, not fair, be kind to me. Water spirits hateful to ships and bathers fateful, be kind to me. Spirits of earthbound dead that glide with noiseless tread, be kind to me. Spirits of heat and fire destructive in your ire, be kind to me. Spirits of cold and ice, patrons of crime and vice, be kind to me. Wolves, vampires, satyrs, ghosts, elect of all the devilish hosts, I pray you send hither, send hither, send hither. The great grey shape that makes men shiver, shiver, shiver. Come, come, come. Following the chant, remove your outer garments and smear your body with the fat of a newly killed animal. A cat is said to be most effective, mixed with aniseed, camphor, and opium. Secure a girdle made of wolf skin around your waist, and kneeling within the first circle, you must wait for the arrival of the unknown. The moment the fire suddenly burns blue and then goes out, the unknown is about to reveal itself. If it doesn't appear in physical form, you will undoubtedly feel its presence. There you go.
Wow.
Nice. So you need a fat cat, lots of
Yeah.
opium.
Yeah.
So I've got some of that lying around somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I-
if
I love
anyone's
the-
kind of concerned about what might happen there, at the end we'll tell you how to exercise a werewolf. So if you've become one suddenly, we'll tell you
So
how to
what-
fix it later.
Yeah, but
Look,
listen
I-
to the end if you get into state.
I mean, I
Don't
assume...
remove that girdle. Keep that girdle on.
I like the way you say girdle. I mean, it's
Girdle.
it reminds me of when anyone Scottish says girder, like iron brew.
Yeah. Arse.
Well, that was uncanny, Craig. That was uncanny.
Yeah, that's quite a recipe, like this idea of like
Yeah.
asking all the spirits and devils to come and help you out. I always feel it always feels like a bit of an imposition. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe it's because I'm Scottish, but I just feel like all the devils and spirits like come and help us out. We're actually a bit busy. I got my wolf girdle on, smeared in opium and fat cat.
Can you imagine walking in on someone dressed like that?
Yeah.
Just smeared in cat fat.
That's why I was laughing.
It's not what it looks like.
Where all the cats disappearing to in the village. Don't know.
Maybe that's it.
your
Maybe
call.
if all the cats are disappearing in your village,
Yeah.
that's your answer.
And there's circles in the really flat fields.
Yeah.
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 Something's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the opium's gone. Don't know where it is. I'm not sure what that first plant was though.
Poppy seeds.
Poppy seeds. Okay. Get that at the co-op.
I've lost my list now. Where's it gone?
Henbane.
No, it was the
hemlock.
Asafoetida, wasn't it? I think that you're.
Asafoetida. It sounds like the lyric from da 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 da.
You can buy it for.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
You can buy it from Sainsbury's. It comes up Tesco's and Sainsbury's. It's only £1 for a whole jar of this stuff.
Oh my god.
Has a pungent smell, as reflected in its name. Lending
Is
it the
it-
common name of stinking gum.
Nice.
It's a dried latex exuded from the rhizome or taproot of several species of ferula, perennial herbs of the carrot family.
Is that in their witchcraft section, their cryptid section?
It's in the herbs and spices section, Andy. That's,
Fair enough. Oh, don't go there.
They'll only sell it to you if you're wearing a witch's hat.
It's a 2-for-1 on cauldrons.
Seasonal. It's in the seasonal aisle.
That's it. I do like my
Yeah.
stinking gum spice lattes, you know.
It does say the smell dissipates upon cooking, so you won't smell of it. So if you're becoming a werewolf and you're thinking, I would, but I'm put off by the smell of the Asafoetida, it's fine. It
social
dissipates when
shame.
it's cooked. Yeah.
Oh, that's good news. That's good news.
That is exactly why, sort of I wouldn't become a werewolf. It's just the smell. That's the only thing that's holding me back. The worst bit is, though, you'd smell things more as well as a werewolf. Your sense of smell would improve, right? And, there's certain smells I wouldn't want to smell in a more powerful way. myself being one of them.
That's why I make you record on Zoom, Andy. Come on.
I know
No
we were.
smell-o-vision here.
I think we touched on it last time about how werewolves aren't like we were under this impression at first that they're not very prominent in British folklore. Then it's like, well, actually, they are. Um,
There's loads of them. It's a myth.
exactly. Yeah, bloody riddled with the things. Well, this whole notion of there not being a British werewolf or British werewolf folklore is the technical term is bollocks, I think. But
I think you missed out the word total, Andy. Total.
total bollocks. Yeah, I'm new to this. But it does go all the way back to Old English. Now, the word werewolf, it's derived from were, meaning man, and wolf, Wulf. Craig, can you guess what that is? Or Eileen, even. Can either of you guess what that is?
Is it like a bear or a cat?
Close.
Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's it. A man hedgehog. Terrifying. No, it's wolf, as you can probably guess. So the belief in werewolves or some other form of were animals, it exists in nearly every country sort of in the world in one way or another. So yeah, there is a bit of a sort of not lack of werewolf stories, as I mentioned, but there is maybe not quite as much as you find on the continent. And unlike in the witch trials, where the accused were often acquitted, and witchcraft sort of dismissed as delusions and hysteria, werewolf confessions, when these sort of things went to trial, they're often accepted as fact. But you didn't get many of these witch trials actually in Britain itself. They tend to be more on the continent. And it's kind of hard to know why. Perhaps the answer lies in one of the most significant pieces of British history regarding this sort of phenomena, which is the extermination of the wolf. In 1281, King Edward I ordered the full-scale eradication of all wolves from his kingdom. Organised hunts, bounties, they'd sort of been in place for years. If an outlaw was caught, quite often if they were off sort of in the woods, if they were hiding, a way of referring to them was a wolf's head, because just like a wolf, you could kill them, bring them in and claim a bounty. So, this had been in place for a while, but there hadn't been a comprehensive full-on attempt to wipe them out in their entirety. And it did seem to work, though. These hunts were huge, hundreds and hundreds were being killed every year, and predators, they don't tend to breed quite as quickly as prey animals. So from this point on, any reference to wolves in England after the late 1200s becomes vanishingly rare in the British Isles. Some up in Scotland, but yeah, pretty rare. The idea of trying to pinpoint the exact dates the last wolf died is silly. You can't really do it. Like, no one will know. A throat was cut somewhere, a lonely, sick old thing died in the depths of the forest, and they were gone. And that was it. The wolves were all gone. But as we know, things that we destroy entirely have a tendency to haunt our imaginations for years or centuries to come. Instead of werewolves, British folklore is rich with something else, which is spectral hounds, phantom dogs, which are quite tied in, and you see a lot of similarities. There's a strong history of hauntings or spectres in landscapes where the wolves once lived. So you think of the folklore of like Black Shuck in East Anglia, or the Headless Barguest up in the north, or the Wisht Hounds in Wistman's Wood in Devon. We've covered black dogs earlier on, and we are going to focus more on werewolves, but I think it is good to sort of keep that in, sort of that fact in mind as well, that a lot of what was potentially werewolf folklore, or had the potential to become it, kind of transferred into these black dogs and spectral hounds.
Like in Scotland, in Old Scots, a werewolf is actually a werewolf. So it's like warwolf. And
just got to be different.
Yeah. But in Scots, it means, like, the definition of it is like a wild man or a wild person. They don't specify, like, the language doesn't specify in Scots anyway, that it's like a dog or a wolf. It's like it's just a wild,
like a feral man.
A feral man, yeah. And it's also it's used in like around the 17th century to describe feral children. as well. So it's like a werewolf, is described as that, which is kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah.
we have a couple of we don't have that many like really specific werewolf stories, but there's a couple from our like oral storytelling tradition that are absolutely werewolf stories. I mean, we've got like last wolf stories in like every corner of Scotland, every bush,
Mm.
every tree, every clan has like, oh, we were the ones that did away with the wolf. Like
Mm.
we have like there's a couple of like McQueen clan claim to that, but also I'm sure there's another one I can't McQueen off the top of my head, but I know that there's another one. Um, yeah, which is kind of interesting. Boars as well. Like loads of people have killed boars.
And you've got dog soldiers. Dog soldiers
I
is
was
based
gonna
in
say,
Scotland.
yeah, dog soldiers, which are quite lanky werewolves.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, they use ballet dancers for those.
Really?
Did
Yeah,
they?
so for the film Dog Soldiers, they use ballet dancers
Huh.
because the director wanted them to appear graceful as well as kind of terrifying. He said, "You've got this
Oh
lumbering thing," and he
wow.
said, "No, they'd be graceful. They're apex predators. They're nimble on their feet." And so yeah, they use ballet dancers using like stilts hidden in the costumes.
Wow. So it's
So
Neil Marshall that directed that, wasn't it?
yeah, I
Neil
think so.
Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, cool. That's ace. That one, I love Dog Soldiers, Ginger Snaps, and
Just
also American Werewolf in
oh
London.
yes.
Those are
I
like
haven't seen Ginger Snaps.
classics. Haven't
Yeah.
you? It's good. It's like kind of teen drama meets
Mm.
Yeah.
like American Werewolf in London. But it wouldn't have existed, like it wouldn't have been able to have been made if it hadn't have been for American Werewolf in London, which basically just, shattered the horror genre by putting
That
Yeah.
comedy in there.
transformation scene as well. Like that
Yeah.
was revolutionary. And I think we did a little episode on our favorite Halloween films or scary films for Halloween, and that was one of mine actually. I think was American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
But it was just that transformation scene because a lot of the time you don't get it. They like disappear off screen and they come up like ah, but it
Yeah.
was you see like and you hear the bones breaking as it forms. It's like oh
Yeah. It's also
Mm.
his pal, like showing up, like
yeah,
all
in
like,
more
yeah,
decayed every time.
yeah. And more people as well, like the cinema scene, like, yeah.
Yeah. And the
So,
subway
yeah, it's
scene
such a
actually,
good.
where the guy in the suit's being chased by him, that terrified me. I was watching it as quite a young kid, and that got
Mm,
me. Even now, if it's a late night,
yeah.
if I'm in the subway late at night or something in London, going through, and it's quite quiet, and just I think, oh, am I going to see like this werewolf pounding after me? It's
Mm.
pretty scary stuff. But no, it was a brilliant
Can
film.
but dream, eh, Andy?
I'd get my phone out, right? Welcome to Wyrd Wessex. um, Before we go on, have you got any werewolf stories for us you'd like to share, Eileen?
So not in your time or in my time, but in somebody else's time. There was a woman called Ginty, and Ginty needed to borrow an iron griddle. She didn't have one, and she had to borrow it from her neighbour, who lived on the other side of the woods. And this wasn't so much of a problem, because when she set out through the woods, it was daylight. And when she got to her neighbour's house, they sat and they chatted for ages, until Ginty's neighbour realised that the sun was setting. And she said, "Here, you better get back through the woods before it gets dark, because that's the wood where the last wolf lives." So Ginty sets off with her griddle and she starts going through the woods. But that sun is sinking and she's moving as fast as she can, but she cannot outrun the dark, which is settling all around her like a blanket. And very soon she starts to hear a howling. And in the darkness, she sees a pair of flashing amber eyes. And she runs as fast as she can, but suddenly this wolf leaps onto her and throws her down to the ground. Now this wolf is right at her throat, and she grabs this iron griddle and she belts the wolf on the head with it, and she hears a crack. But the wolf quickly gets its teeth into her arm and tears open her arm. She hits it again with his girdle. And then the wolf falls down dead onto your arm. And the wound from the wolf's head is just gushing with blood. And the blood goes right into the open wound on Ginty's arm. She gets up, she pushes the wolf off, and she runs home. When she gets home, fever for... And no one could do anything with her. But when the fever finally went away, the wound was completely healed. And people said that that was because of the wolf's blood. Now, Ginty had children, and every single one of those children had those same amber eyes. There you are.
Nice. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. And, you know, so I like the idea of it being that lineage as well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice one, that one. It's a Perthshire story.
Wow.
And there's another one as well, but I don't know if you want to mix it up and hear a different story. Have you got a story?
Yeah, so the Windsor Werewolf. So it's a very modern report, and it brings the legend to the very doorstep of royalty. This chilling tale of the Windsor Werewolf comes to us from a book about unexplained local legends, but is rooted in a sighting from as recently as the year 2000. I say recently, but that's recent to me. The incident was first reported by 2 police officers in Windsor on a patrol in the early hours. They encountered a huge wolf-like beast in a car park. The creature was so large and had such an odd gait that it didn't seem like any normal dog. It seemed almost irritated that the officers had disturbed it. It simply walked towards the river and then vanished from sight. Now, a similar beast has been seen a decade earlier than that, even near the River Thames in Maidenhead. But on this occasion, it was by an officer who saw a creature she initially took to be a large shaggy dog. But as it came into the light, she realised it was a colossal wolf with eyes that glowed with an intense yellow-green luminosity. And she said it had an air of arrogance and almost human intelligence and was so terrifying that it left her no doubt that it was a supernatural beast.
Yeah, I mean, Windsor's got all sorts of cool. I mean, you got the Herne the Hunter folklore around Windsor Park as well, haven't you? It's yeah, sort of one of those wild places, I guess.
Even more modern. Recently, Sarah Ferguson was saying that the corgis she inherited from the Queen have actually been communicating with her. Like the Queen has been communicating through the corgis to Sarah Ferguson.
Interesting.
Have you heard about that?
No.
Yes, the Queen has been communicating from beyond the grave through her corgis to Sarah Ferguson.
Wow.
Another Windsor link. Ghostly dog.
Yeah, have you got any others you wanted to do, Andy?
Yeah, I was going to actually go back a little bit earlier.
Yeah. The
'cause,
90s?
The 90s, even further back than the 80s.
Does anything exist before the Spice Girls? I mean,
Pureness, joy. Yeah, there was one or two things worth mentioning before the Spice Girls, but not much.
go on then.
So this is actually a reference from the 13th century. And I don't think we covered this one last time. I think we meant to. So I'm going to throw it in. So a 13th century writer, Gervase of Tilbury, stated that werewolves were common in England in his day. He wrote, "It is certain there are men who at certain waxings of the moon are transformed into wolves." And it does get weirder. Strangely, he wrote his book during the reign of King John of England. And according to an obscure legend, King John himself was actually a werewolf. And this possibly is tied to the fact in 1185 he wasn't the king yet; he was a prince, and he travelled to Ossory, a kingdom in medieval Ireland that's now mainly in Kilkenny. Now, several medieval accounts, including English and sort of Norse ones, for when the Norse were going over earlier on, maintained that Ossory was a land packed full of werewolves. Gerald of Wales, a chronicler who accompanied John to Ireland, recorded meeting and chatting with werewolves while in Ossory a few years before that. Yeah, it's been supposed, perhaps with a little bit more than a leap of imagination and any real evidence, and a healthy dose of the fact that lots of people hated John Lackland, that he mingled with werewolves, and you can take that in whatever way you want to. And the legend went further than that. He said King John of England had gone about as a werewolf, and this is by Keating Kelly in a book written in 1863 on folklore, that he'd gone about as a werewolf, this King John, after his death. So kind of like a vampire rises from the grave or a drow or something like that, he'd risen as a werewolf. And yeah, I mean, it's a strange one. There's I was reading up on the werewolves of Ossory because, again, maybe it is tied to the fact that wolves were around in Ireland a little bit longer. But
does sound like a Netflix series,
right?
Werewolves of Ossory.
Right, exactly. It's Topographia was Gerald's book, and he tells the story of this sort of priest that he doesn't give a name to, travelling from Ulster. And he encounters a wolf in the woods, and this wolf sort of stands up and tells him not to be afraid and starts talking about God. The priest sort of then begs the wolf not to harm him and urges him to explain. And I've got a little reference to the wolf's reply here. There are two of us, a man and a woman, natives of Ossory, who through the curse of one Natalis, saint and abbot, are compelled every 7 years to put on the human form, put off the human form and depart from the dwellings of men. Quitting entirely the human form, we assume that of wolves. And at the end of the 7 years, if they chance to survive, two others being substituted in their places, they return to their country in their former shape. And now, she who is my partner in this visitation lies dangerously sick, not inspired by divine charity, to give her the consolations of your priestly office. So it does get very sort of a bit preachy. But this priest then sort of gives the last rites over the sick female wolf. The male sort of pulls off the wolf skin that the female's wearing, revealing this sort of like old, sort of frail woman, and reassures the priest that he's not committing blasphemy by doing this. And after the priest has given communion to the woman, the male wolf leads him out of the woods and gives him a number of prophecies about the future of Ireland and England and invaders. And yeah, it's quite interesting because a lot of this ties in to earlier folklore about the Fianna tribe. And there's a lot of references to them being wolf-like, and sort of this whole, and it's kind of what you were talking about being sort of, war wolves and like wild men. That's kind of similar in Ireland to an extent. The Fianna was seen as part of their initiation into the Fianna, these like greatest warriors drawn from all the tribes of Ireland, all the clans. The Fianna had to go and live as part of their trials out in the woods for a certain amount of time, just like naked, just surviving out in the woods. And they were seen as like wolf-like and almost becoming beasts themselves. So, yeah. And all that happened, Craig, before the Spice Girls.
Wow. Who'd have thought it?
There's also a great film that sort of kind of touches on that, which is a film called Wolf Walkers.
I thought you meant Spice World, the movie. But all
I
right.
mean, great film, but, not the one I was thinking of.
I thought it was interesting when you were saying about the wolf that the priest meets, and the wolf says like 7 years, he's got to do 7 years, because that again, that's another trope in our folklore. Like Selkies, for example, they're supposed to transform every 7 years. If you get captured by the good folk, the fairies, you do it like a penance of like 7 years with them. And it's the same with like the spirits of the water. It's this like 7, which is kind
Do you think
of
that's... Sorry, go on.
no, I think it is kind of interesting. And I think it probably it's I think it is later. The idea of 7 being this magical number is later than the idea of 9, because in like a lot of earlier folklore, 9 is like the pivotal number.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of interesting as well, because like you can see how things have sort of changed and like evolved. And I think, what you were talking about there about like this wolf, and he starts giving prophecies, and this priest is like uncovered the woman. It seems very much to me like a kind of allegorical tale of how he's like saving souls, and like, he's saving this kind of like pagan, person. Like she's removed the thing, he's getting the thing, he's delivering the word, all this kind of caper. It seems to me that I could see how that might have changed, throughout time. So I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, it's interesting. It's very cool.
I just wondered whether you thought it might be connected to like the idea of the 7-year itch as well, right? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that. Maybe,
just like every 7 years, we kind of get bored and move on to a new thing. So
yeah,
we're like, I'm bored of being a Selkie now. I'm going to do this thing instead.
Yeah,
I'm going to become a werewolf.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, the average time when people get bored and want to do something new, 7 years. You need a psychologist. You need to talk to a psychologist about that.
Oh, about that specifically. You just need to talk to a psychologist.
No, just in general. Yeah.
I tell Craig that on the regular,
Yeah, but talking to Andy on Zoom is cheaper, so we'll just.
I mean, that is essentially it. This isn't actually even a podcast. It's he thinks it is, but yeah,
therapy session.
Public therapy is the best kind.
And how do these greys and vampires make you feel, Craig?
Where did they touch to?
Aroused?
Yeah, we're gonna need to book in more sessions. Episodes.
Gonna need an in-person session for this one, Andy.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll get your dad talking again.
Oh no.
I mean, I've got a fairly dark story if you want to go. Depends
Always.
Whether you want. I know you do.
I
don't know how Eileen feels about the darker side of some of the stuff we talk about, but yeah. So yeah. You might have already heard of it because it's a fairly famous story. It's about a guy called Peter Stubb.
Oh yes.
Stump sometimes he's referred to. But it's not a case from Britain or even England. But the only account we have does come from a 16th century pamphlet that was published in London. So there's my tedious link to get it in. And yeah, the pamphlet was titled A Most True Discourse. And it was a translation of a German account from 1589 brought over to England to sensationalize and warn of his crimes. And it tells the story of Peter Stubb. So the account states that Peter was a man from the town of Krefeld and Bedburg. And the pamphlet claims that from the young age of 12, he was drawn to wicked arts. His desire for evil was so powerful that he forgot the God who made him and gave both his soul and body to the devil forever. And what did he ask for in return? Well, he didn't want riches or power. He only wanted the ability to transform into a beast so he could work his malice on men, women, and children without being caught. The devil gave him a girdle, and when he put it on, he became a greedy, devouring wolf. And when he took it off, he was a man again, as if he'd never been changed. So for 25 years, this monstrous fiend terrorized the region. The pamphlet is a catalogue of his sickening crimes. It says that he murdered 13 young children, 2 pregnant women, tearing the children out of their wombs, and in a most bloody and savage manner. And in a detail that is utterly chilling, it claims he would then eat their hearts, panting hot and raw, is how they describe it. His evil wasn't limited to his time as a wolf either. He committed incest with his own daughter, Belle Stubb, and his own sister, fathering a child with his daughter. He even had a relationship with what the pamphlet describes as a she-devil for 7 years. There's that 7 years again. It says his heart was so hardened that he murdered his own son, whom he called his heart's ease, luring him into a forest before slaying him as a wolf and eating the brains from his head.
Mm.
His reign of terror finally ended when a group of hunters pursued him with great mastiffs and dogs. With nowhere to run, he did the only thing he could. He slipped the girdle from his body. The beast vanished, and in its place stood a man with a staff, who the hunters recognized. Now, under torture, he confessed to everything. He also implicated his daughter Belle and his accomplice Catherine Trumpin. All three were sentenced on the 28th of October, 1589. The pamphlet records his horrific punishment in great detail. Peter was laid on a wheel, and with red-hot burning pincers his flesh was pulled from his bones in 10 separate places. Then his legs and arms were broken with a wooden axe or hatchet. Finally, his head was struck from his body, and his carcass was burned to ashes. His daughter and his accomplice were then burned quick to ashes beside him, and a wooden effigy of the wolf was placed on a pole, and his head was set upon it.
Grim.
It's a very grim
stuff.
story. It, as I say, it is kind of, at least the things he did are certainly horrific and true. Whether we believe he was in the form of a wolf when he did that is obviously
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. It's interesting he had the girdle as well, you know? The mention of the girdle again.
I mean, the girdle, you
Yeah.
get that to an extent in like the Sigurd, sort of the Volsung saga, don't you? The Norse
yeah.
sort of Volsung saga. You get the wolf, like Sigurd's ancestors, like they take the wolf skins on themselves that get brought to them when they're in their sort of prison, and sort of sneak out and kill the family members of those holding them. And it's that whole, it sort of seems to have evolved from becoming a wolf. Like when they, from at least what I've told, I've by no means read like extensively everything on this, but they seem to go from that sort of pulling on a wolf skin and becoming a wolf, which you could go really basic and make references to the Ulthuan sort of wolf warriors of the Norse and things like that. But the idea of mounting like an animal skin upon yourself and becoming that animal, or at least taking that animal's power or attributes, and that later seems to evolve into actually, you become a wolf, like you develop that hair, that physique. And it's quite interesting to see like where that starts shifting.
Yeah, totally. Like it goes from being a sort of like a symbol or a symbolic thing to
Yeah.
being a literal, uh, which is quite interesting.
Right, whose
No,
turn is it to go next?
Would you like to do another one, Eileen?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this story, I like this story a lot because it's weird, basically. And this one is, again, it's from Perthshire, just because that's where I grew up. So most of the stories I know, they're from that region. And it goes like this. So there's a guy, and he was walking through the woods, and he got completely lost. And he didn't know what to do, and it was getting dark. And so he was trying to find shelter, and it started to rain. It started to get really stormy, and he was cold, and he was tired, and he was hungry. And he finds this cave, and he goes into the cave, and he tries to make like a wee fire. And he gets a wee fire going, and he sees outside the cave the moon rising and hanging in the sky like a lantern. And then he can hear a sort of weird snuffling noise, snuffling and shuffling. And he picks up a wee bit of the burning fire and he holds it up to see what it is. And at first he thinks it's a dog, and he drops the fire back into the pit and he sort of jumps. But then it moves closer to the fire and he sees that it's a young girl, a young woman. And he sees that she's barefoot and she's just wearing like a wee sark, just not very much. And he starts to talk to her. He goes, "Oh, like, are you from here? I could really do with some shelter. Can you help me out? I'm lost on this caper." And she just kind of looks at him and she sort of shrugs, and then she kind of beckons him to follow her. So he goes, oh, great. So he does. He puts the fire out. He follows her. And she takes him to this house. It's her house. And when she gets there, it's her mother that opens the door. And she's angry with the girl for bringing him. But she lets him come in. And he tells her, I got lost. I'm hungry. I'm cold. Thank you so much. She goes, it's fine. You can stay here for the night. But in the morning, you've got to go. So he goes, fine. It's fine. So she goes off and she brings out some food. She puts it down on the table and it's fish. And the lassie sits beside this guy. And they start eating away, but she doesn't. In fact, she just pushes that plate away in absolute disgust. And she just snorts. And she gets up and she walks away. And the mother looks at the guy and she goes, pay no mind to her, right? Don't worry about it. So she goes, right, everyone's eating, apart from her. It's time to get some sleep. So she makes him up a wee bed by the fire. And then he gets into his wee bed and the other two go off. Now he starts to fall asleep, but it hasn't been too long since he's shut his eyes when he can hear that snuffling and shuffling noise again. And this time it comes with a growl. And it's a deep growl. And it's threatening. And in the firelight, he can see these big teeth. And they're close to his face. So very quickly, but very quietly, he grabs his dirk, his knife, and he pulls it out and he stabs it into the creature, right into the shoulder. And he hears a wince, a howl. And then next thing you know, the mother's in the room and she's got a candle there. And the guy jumps up and he goes, you've got a dog, there's a wild dog in here. She goes, there's no dog. And she shows him, it's her daughter in the corner there. She's got a big cut on her shoulder. And then she goes, you better go. So he does, he gets his stuff together and he heads out. And it's black as pitch outside and the moon is still hanging like a lantern. And he starts walking. And he turns around for a wee moment because he's got that feeling, that someone's watching you. And he can see the young woman standing outside the door. She's clutching her bleeding shoulder. And then he hears a noise that makes his blood turn to ice. This blood-curdling howl coming for this young woman. But he didn't wait, and he took off down the road, and he never looked back, and he never went back. And I never heard what happened to that girl or her mother. So as far as I know, they live there still. There you go.
Nice, thank you. I do like it being left open-ended a little bit as well.
Yeah, I like that. I always like that kind of ending. I like the endings of stories where you can kind of go, oh, well, I never heard that they died, so they're still going away. Or I like that kind of thing.
I was going to say, has anyone heard of the werewolves on Cannock Chase?
Yes.
Fair enough.
No.
Yeah, that's some more recent ones. It was like the 70s, wasn't it? That one you had like this big spate of of
that's a weird
sightings.
one because there's a whole lot of stuff supposedly that happens on Cannock Chase. Even there's like a pig man and stuff as well.
Yeah, there's like UFO stuff. There's
I've heard from people that I've listened to another podcast that recorded from their live. In fact, they were connected with another podcast and they all met up and they went there and recorded. I gather it's a bit shady when you go there at night and there might be some, let's just say extracurricular activities that happen in the area.
Illicit goings on. I mean, are we talking...
Nothing wrong with watching, Andy.
Those sorts. I'll bring my head torch and...
Popcorn.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you ever seen the show Wasted?
No, no. Sounds
Recommend it.
familiar.
You can get it on Channel 4 on demand or whatever they call it these days. It's only a one series thing. Sean Bean's in it.
Playing
Oh, nice.
Um,
playing himself as a spirit guide.
well,
Oh,
he's kind of himself, but he's
wow.
also dressed up like he was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's about a bunch of young adults living near Glastonbury that take a lot of drugs, basically. But it's a lot of fun.
It's very much if you ever watched Spaced, it's got that sort of vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, nice.
yeah. But that's where
Cool.
the
I like
nothing
that.
wrong with watching comes from. That I think. Isn't it?
Yeah, we quote it a lot for a show that not many people have seen. Um,
It's good to have niche references, though.
exactly, exactly. Um,
One day we'll become a niche reference ourselves.
stay weird.
We, we all aspire to that.
Right, right,
Um,
that's it.
anyway, you were talking about Canic Chase, Andy, and I interrupted you.
That's all right. I'm used to it. No, I was just going to say it was the 70s, wasn't it? And even then, it was like you got these. A lot of the reports did come from like supernatural, investigator teams and everything like that. So not to cast
Yeah.
dispersions on them, but at the same time, you do have to take some of it with a hefty old pinch of salt.
Mm.
Because I went there with my ghost hunting equipment and my all my friends who are into ghosts, and we saw a ghost, and it's like I imagine you would. Um, but it's you look you stare into the woods hard enough and something will stare back at you, and whether that's an
Mhm.
actual thing or because your mind's messing with you, or there's people watching. Nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong with watching.
it.
Yeah.
Because there's old mines under there apparently that people are saying that they almost came up with that. What was it? There was a film series about these sort of like very Gollum looking like humanoids that were living in these caves. Oh, what was it called? So it was set up in Scotland, I think. Um, it'll come to me in a bit anyway. And these sort of cavers go down there, and most of them get killed. And they sort of theorized that they'd been like that. This sort of kind of offshoot of humanity was like living in these old mines and coming up and
Yeah.
terrorizing people,
Making pig noises and
making pig noises.
I love what the sense of humor of a ghost and spirits. It's really pretty sharp, isn't
I,
it?
I've already told my wife if I die first, I'm gonna haunt the shit out of her.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There'll be floating
Yeah.
cups, squeaky door
Oh,
noises,
this whole
chain
building will
rattles.
be off bounds. No one will come in here. There'll be so much weird shit going on.
Already is.
Beat me to it.
There's there was that film recently that was it was a ghost film and it was from the perspective of the ghost. And without giving too much away, it's like time isn't linear. So a ghost that you're seeing now may not have become a ghost at your present point. It might be a ghost that's made in the future and comes back. And
hmm
like
Mhm.
maybe Craig, that is the man with a hat, but
I
in
think
your house.
they stole my theory, didn't they?
Possibly, possibly. Yeah, I want to sue him for that. But maybe
Mm.
maybe the man in the hat is you.
Oh, I do have a lot of hats.
You do have a lot of hats. It's how you don't badge.
Oh, plot
Actually,
How you
twist.
don't
right,
badge your head.
we've gone well off werewolves there, but actually, so there are some stories of people where as a young person they've gone into like a house and they've seen someone say sat in a chair that scared them as a ghost. And then when they're older, they're sat in a chair and they see a bunch of young people come in, and it's like the flip, and they
Yeah.
realize that they've basically haunted themselves. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that in our like in Scottish folklore, like of people hearing like tapping, and the
yeah,
tapping that they hear is like a coffin being made. There's a really woman, like, there's lots of famous seers, you call them, and she used to sing songs, and when she sung a song, it would put her into a trance, and sometimes she could see things,
mm,
um, which is where some of the kind of folklore around spell songs and things in Scotland comes from. But yeah,
Nice.
the idea of like hearing something and hearing weeping or hearing like a table breaking. I remember one of them. Yeah, there's lots of things like that, which is cool because, like, again, like in our folk tradition, time is
Yeah.
not linear, and it is
Yeah.
like it's multi-dimensional, and you are just as much a part of the past as you are a future, and it kind of, you are the link between those two things.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I'd
yeah.
be a bit pissed off if I found out that I've been haunting myself this whole time.
Kind of like when you got
Throw
someone's
yourself in.
hands and you're grabbing, sort of the classic bully thing. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. It's kind of like, stop haunting yourself, Craig. Stop haunting yourself.
I mean, if I could guarantee that was the case, it's kind of nice to think, okay, so when I'm older, I still live here. Like things are obviously
Yeah,
stable enough that like
Hmm.
I stay in the same place now. And I kind of there's a little bit of me that's like, that's not a bad thing, right? Like
Yeah.
anything can
Yeah.
happen in life, but I know that I end up
That's
here.
nice.
Okay,
or
there's
it
worse
might mean
places
that
to be.
you leave your studio tonight and immediately get eaten by a werewolf.
I'm not wearing a hat. It's not tonight.
This is true. This is true. Don't wear a hat and you'll be fine. Although it can come at you in mysterious ways, though. Like, it was one of the nobles that died at the First Battle of St. Albans. Um, what was his name? So
Okay.
essentially, the folklore around it, it was, I think it was the Duke of Somerset. Um, he supposedly was had a prophecy about him. It might not have been Somerset, it might have been one of the others, but he died in St Albans, and there was prophecy that he would die beneath a castle, and so he's very conscious of this and getting into sort of how he was around castles,
Yeah.
and then at the first Battle of St Albans, he was killed taking a refuge in a tavern called the Castle, and he was
Hmm.
killed under the sign, and yeah. Which was, I was like, oh, I see. Yep. So, these things can come at you in, strange, mysterious ways.
Yeah. The irony.
Mm.
Should we pull it back to werewolves before we finish?
I mean, we did talk about potentially talking a bit about other things you can turn into. I don't know, would that be a good way to end? Because you've got your book with you on
And
cryptids. Is it
dictionary.
worth
Yeah.
maybe mentioning a couple of other things that people might want to be wary of turning into?
Well, we've got a lot of like stories in Scotland about, but specifically about death and the transformation of your soul. So we have some really beautiful folklore about, somebody passing away and becoming like a moth or a bird. But those stories are not quite that kind of like monstrous story of the werewolf. That story is very much about this idea that once somebody passes away, your relationship with them changes. There's a transformation, and they're still present, but their form is different. The energy is transferred. It's very much about that kind of thing. But we do have other stories where you can become like a different kind of beast. There's a story of a were eel, for example. You might not become a wolf, but you
Oh,
might become an eel, which
I'd
is
be
that,
massively disappointed if I got that one.
wouldn't it? I,
Right.
I ordered wolf. What?
God damn it!
I feel myself
Yeah.
changing. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. It's not
I'm
Um,
one
a
of those.
slippery eel.
yeah. Rats. Yeah, exactly. But one of the interesting things about that story, you were talking earlier about how sometimes in times of like strife and war and things, these stories come up. With the eel, it's this story comes up around about the time of the Irish famine and the famine in Scotland as well. So it's very much kind of attached to that. And we have more folklore about eels where people are starving hungry and they fall into a loch and they are consumed by eels. And so I think this story is definitely linked to that time and that kind of strife. In Ireland, you get a story about hungry grass as well, which is, you think that's like, oh, it's a patch of grass that eats you, but it's not. like you're walking along a field and you'll step on the hungry grass and you'll feel such a hunger on you that you'll collapse and die. So those kind of the eels, the hungry grass, that's kind of linked into a very specific part of our history. Um, but you can also become a were-fox, which is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind
That
that.
is
That
kind
would
of
be
not
okay.
the,
It could be
yeah.
fun. Yeah, that's all right. Or you could be a were-hare. Are
that's
you
cool.
aware that you
Where?
could be a were-hare? Yeah,
I mean,
that would be all
you
It
right.
sort of get some.
alliterates nicely.
You sort of get some of that in Cornish folklore, don't you? In the southwest, you get some of that. It's like one in every five folk songs from down that way, sort of about sort of someone becoming a hare and misleading people across moors and things. The rest are about people drowning in ships and dying in duels and things.
I think down this way
Yeah,
though, isn't that more connected with witches? Don't witches turn into hares?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. There's a nice kind of like link between turning into a hare and yeah, or a rabbit
Yeah.
and being a witch.
Mm.
Yeah. And I mean the other folklore we've got Kelpies, people transforming into like the huiske, the water horse. So yeah, but again, I think those are very specific about they're they're a very specific kind of story. Like with the water horse and the Kelpie stories, those are very much about like the river and nature, and that's of the land, those stories. Whereas I think the monster transformation stories are very much linked to stressful times.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
do you think that's kind of do you think part of that is masking the fact that you have maybe this is too obvious, but kind of the fact that people had to do monstrous things to survive back then. Like if in those times, you do sort of that part of the worry is becoming a monster in order to survive, whether that is as on the nose as eating people to survive, you know,
Mm.
or just, sort of taking on an almost more feral state. I was reading about the Black Death recently,
Mm.
as you do for a bit of light reading, and just how like they think like a lot of children grew up, and I remember seeing it on that horrifically scary film Threads that came out, sort of warning of the dangers of sort of nuclear war, and like sort of same catastrophic event wipes out a massive amount of the population and the children growing up are basically feral and they think that happened in the Black Death. Like a lot of these children that weren't in sort of noble households or whatever, like they couldn't speak properly because their parents had died, or like a lot of their family had died. There wasn't time to teach them because like all your energy had to go on survival. And these kids couldn't speak properly, they couldn't act properly around people, and they were sort of almost halfway to wild animals. And do you think like some of
Mm.
it's that sort of leans into it in a way at all?
Well, maybe because I mean, like I said earlier, the Scots word for a werewolf,
Yeah.
referred to feral children. So it could,
Mm.
it could be. It depends when the language kind of changed, because that's always evolving. I think as well, it's
Yeah.
the difficult thing with pairing folklore with history is that there's some cultural things that change that we don't
Yeah.
really keep a track of. Like, for example, one of our most awful creatures in Scottish folklore is Nuckalave. And his story is very old. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically he's like this flayed half man, half horse
Mm.
with like really long arms that drag along the ground, a great big head that kind of rolls around, a gaping maw, and he has like these terrible teeth, and he breathes this like noxious gas everywhere, and he lives deep in the sea, and the sea mother kind of creates all these storms during winter to keep him in the sea, but during summer he comes out and he spreads this like noxious gaseous breath, which is supposed to kill crops and animals and take away the fertility of women and all this kind of stuff. Now, that story was told for a very long time, but it comes back into being told around about the time of the Highland clearances, when people are getting forced down to the seashore,
Yeah.
and they are forced to live on seaweed, and they're burning lots of seaweed to create what's something called kelp, which you use in soap and hat making and all this other caper. And the fumes from the kelp killing crops and killing animals, and it was damaging to people's health. But the stories told at that time was very much about, Nuckalave coming, and it was his breath. So there's a massive combination of stuff there. There's like your dependency on the seashore, but it's a threat to your life, essentially. And like, how do you counteract it? And in those stories, it's always like fresh water or lochs that are like repel this creature, that like save you, which is interesting because that's very much inland. So you'll be safe if you go inland, but you're kind of stuck at the edge. So I think sometimes it's hard to pair up the folklore with the history, because we lose a lot of it essentially, and where we find it is within, like, we pick up traces of it in like our oral traditions and things, and poetry, and the art historians don't a lot of the time.
There's one terrifying actual skin changer, sort of type that we haven't come up, brought up properly, which is boanthropy. So we talked about men becoming different beasts, but it's a recognized, albeit quite rare, psychological condition as well. I am talking about boanthropy, which is a very specific type of delusion where a person believes they have transformed into an ox or a cow. It falls under the broader condition, zoanthropy, which is sort of a subtype of clinical lycanthropy. It all ties into these sort of mental health disorders where people genuinely believe they have come these animals. There is that sort of, that truth behind it as well. We're talking about like people becoming monsters through their actions, but there is that condition as well. So going on to boanthropy, one of the most famous examples is actually in the Bible, the book of Daniel, the story of Nebuchadnezzar, I think is how's he
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar, that's it.
Nebuchadnezzar.
I used to go to Sunday.
Nebuchadnezzar.
I used to be a Sunday
Nebuchadnezzar.
schooler.
Yeah,
Nebuchadnezzar.
I was not Nebuchadnezzar. I've read the name and I was like, I've never really thought of how to pronounce it. So Nebuchadnezzar the second, king of Babylon, he was struck by divine punishment, as God was wont to do in the Old Testament, and he was described as being driven from men, and he did eat grass like an ox. Which now people are thinking maybe it is that sort of boanthropy thing. So it's quite interesting, I think, to see how. And again, that's one of the ones I wouldn't like so much. more so than an eel, though, I've got to say. But that is something that I would not want happening to me. But I just thought it's quite interesting that you can sort of think, okay, maybe that was a case of this. Obviously, to finish this, I think it's better for us all if we now know how to exercise these problems. But I just want to really quickly ask, both of you, if you could be a case of true zoanthropy, what would you turn into? You knew I was going to ask this.
I was going to ask the same fucking thing. God, Eileen, what do you reckon? What would you want to turn into?
Like a hawk or something, a bird,
like Lady Hawk, like
like Lady Hawk. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because if you fly about,
Yeah, but up in Scotland, don't you get shot by gamekeepers after a little while for like messing with the grouse?
Well, no, actually, a lot of them are protected. So you might do, but those they're very naughty gamekeepers.
Depends on the time.
But you're a welcome sight in the cities. You just take out a few sky rat pigeons.
What about you, Craig?
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether I'd want to be. I've got like that affinity with like the deer and Canunos, that kind of thing. So maybe I should just say maybe a deer.
Then you've got the genuine gamekeepers that aren't being naughty that shoot you.
I know. So always a risk. Always a risk. But if I'm like some like I don't know spirit deer that disappears amongst the trees.
No, can't change the rules.
Yeah, no, then I'm invincible. And if I roll a D6, Andy,
it's a D20. God. But what if, although if you are a genuine werewolf style one, then maybe a regular gamekeeper bullet wouldn't kill you. It'd have to be silver.
Maybe.
Is that not just werewolves? Silver bullet?
Well, I don't know. You know, research. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're
what would you be?
A white stag, that'd be cool because people were less inclined to shoot that. Maybe because it's like, oh, that's cool.
They're lucky.
Exactly. I would be a capybara. They're cute as hell. They always look like they're having a good time.
It's true, yeah.
Tasty too.
Yeah. Have you ever eaten one?
No, I haven't.
Well,
they just look like giant guinea pigs, and I know that in certain countries they like eating guinea pigs because apparently they taste good.
Yeah. Maybe a werebear.
So shall I quickly tell everyone how to exercise themselves if they become a werewolf or know someone that has?
That would be handy, just in case I give in to temptation and go out with my hemlock and everything. And yeah.
Okay. So first you need to buy a treadmill.
Buy what?
A treadmill.
Okay.
To exercise your werewolf, right?
Yeah. That's
All right. So to perform a werewolf exorcism, you need to follow these steps precisely. First, prepare the ground. So using white chalk, draw a circle with a 7-foot radius. Inside this, in yellow chalk, inscribe the magical figures of Mercury. Next, draw a smaller 3-foot circle with a triangle inside it, again using white chalk. And this ceremony must be performed when Mercury is in a specific astrological position, ideally from 8:32 p.m. to 9:16 p.m. It's quite specific. You need to set up a simple wooden altar about 1 foot to the southeast of the inner circle. On the opposite side, 1.5 feet away, build a fire and place a pot with 2 pints of pure spring water over it on a tripod. Around the outer chalk circle, place hand lamps, each burning olive oil at equal intervals. And then you need to prepare a potion by mixing these ingredients. So you need... Now, I don't know what this is exactly, but it's 2 drachms of sulfur. Drachms, I don't know. That's what it says. 1/2 ounce of castoreum, 6 drachms of opium, 3 drachms of Asafoetida, again, comes up. 1/2 ounce of hypericum, 3/4 ounces of ammonia, and 1/2 ounce of camphor. And obviously you need to be very specific. We don't want any mishaps with the quantities there. They're quite specific. Once this is thoroughly mixed, you need to add it to the boiling water. Then add a portion of a mandrake root, a live snake, 2 live toads in linen bags, and a fungus. And for the final element, bind together a wand made of 3 sprigs, taken respectively from an ash, a birch, and a white poplar. And they must be bound together using red tape. So as for the exorcism itself, with the werewolves, it does say wolves, not one. I mean, you may as well do a group deal, right?
It sounds like quite a complicated ritual. You might as well, start doing that for every werewolf.
Yeah, so with the werewolves placed inside the inner circle, kneel before the altar and begin to pray. Continue until the toads in the boiling pot begin their unearthly cries.
Jeez.
That's a quote.
Wow.
Now, slowly stand, cross yourself and approach the pot. Dip a cup into the seething liquid. solemnly approach the werewolves and slash them severely across the head with your wand. Immediately after, dash the scalding liquid in their faces while commanding,
"In the name of our blessed lady, I command thee to depart. Black evil devils from hell, be gone. Be gone, again I say, be gone."
and you must repeat this command 3 times. And that's it. That's werewolves be gone.
And we
Yeah,
just
job's a good one.
realised, note how much more arsing about the cure is to the actual cause. Like the ritual to become one is a lot easier. A drachm is a eighth of an ounce, by the way.
Ah, there you go.
So like a 20 bag. Sorry,
In old money.
in old money.
Fair enough.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? A Henry's worth of. Well, yeah, that sums it up. There are still more werewolf stories to tell. We have run out of time again. So, maybe there'll be a part 3. Maybe we'll just throw them in random places. In some form or another. I'm sure we'll pester Eileen to come back on if you'd like to. If we haven't put you off.
I would love to. We need to talk about zombies and revenants.
We do.
Yeah.
Indeed. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. And yeah, I think we've gone over werewolves, how to become one, how to get rid of it, what other fun things you could be.
If you don't get the measurements right.
Well, yeah, that's it. Fun things. Maybe that's how the eels are, the were eels happen. And you get the measurements wrong, so shit.
It's also really inconvenient. Like, if you're a wolf, you can probably run away somewhere. If you're like,
that's
oh
it,
no.
just flopping around on the ground in your little circle,
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to plug? I can't remember what we plugged last time. Your website and stuff like that, your social media.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Eileen Budd, is me. And I've got loads of events coming up. And the best place to find out about them is on my Instagram page. And I think that's probably the most easiest way to keep up to date with what I'm doing. Because if I say something now and it's like it comes out later on, there's no point. So
no, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks from us at Wyrd Wessex for listening. And yeah, until next time.
Stay weird.